How do we know what ancient Chinese people sounded like if they didn't use an alphabet when they wrote things down? For instance, ancient Greeks wrote with the Greek alphabet, so all we have to do is figure out what sound each letter makes, and then boom, we know how to pronounce the words. But when somebody like Confucius was writing in classical Chinese, he wasn't writing out letters. Since Chinese characters are logographic, it can be confusing to figure out how they were pronounced in the past, because in general, the characters just represent meanings, not sounds. But there are ways to figure it out, and they reveal some pretty surprising things about ancient Chinese. There's a few ways of figuring out these pronunciations, but the coolest way, in my opinion, can be shown with an English example. For instance, check out the opening verse of this Oasis song. You'll notice that the rhyme scheme is A-A-B, C-C-B. Wait, but that can't be right because bin and seen don't rhyme. It could only make sense if the authors of this song spoke a different dialect of English where bin and seen rhyme. And of course we know that Oasis is from Manchester in England, so it makes sense. So all we have to do is find a 3,000-year-old Chinese Oasis song. Okay, found one. It's called Shijing, the Book of Odes. It's one of the oldest Chinese books of poetry that contains lots of rhymes. But what's crucial is that many of the characters used in it are still used today, but they don't rhyme in the same way that they did back then. So the poetic meter of the poems gives us tons of clues about the phonetic structure of Old Chinese. For instance, these two characters, jie and ye, don't rhyme in modern Chinese. So despite the fact that they have different tones today, they appear in rhyming positions in the Book of Odes. So scholars have guessed that in Old Chinese, tones probably still hadn't developed yet. And these two characters likely rhymed because they shared a final consonant that was later lost in modern Mandarin Chinese. And in addition to rhyming evidence, we also have other Chinese languages to compare to. And some of these languages preserve features of Old or Middle Chinese that were lost in other varieties. For instance, in Cantonese, the pronunciation of this character actually still preserves that P. Also, what's helpful is that other languages borrowed these characters and preserved the pronunciations as well. For instance, the traditional Korean reading of both of these characters ends in a P. And when we put all this evidence together, we actually get a pretty clear picture of what Old Chinese looked like. And it was very different from modern Mandarin Chinese. It didn't have tones, it had crazy consonant clusters, it had a more flexible word order, and it could end syllables in plosives like P.